and I was exactly 1 year ago. I was standing here as a student, as an alumni, and talking about another topic. So now it feels like a full circle moment where I get to speak now. But I took just 2 hours from work just to come here and talk about the topic and run around class. So I have a lot of emotions. So yeah, I just want to start by saying, so the topic is praise behaviors and hidden needs. And I love this topic because it's like we always talk about what we can see, but then everything always has like a layer like underneath that we don't really talk about, especially from the cultural perspective. So, no.
Okay, sorry.
So I always like to start with like some ground rules so that because we always tend to say, oh, so this means that, or like, of course, everyone's like, especially when we're talking about cultures, we always say, oh, so collectivistic cultures do this and individualistic cultures do that. So it's very important to be aware that first, nothing is generalized and nothing is deterministic. So if we say research says this, does not mean that Egypt, since it is a collectivistic culture, then we do this or that. Also, of course, correlations are never causations, and today's globalization actually makes things like not that clear anymore, because we can say Egypt is a collectivistic culture because we highly see families and stuff, but we also tend to have like Western ideologies nowadays. So it's not. That's why, like, when I'm gonna talk about like collectivistic cultures, I don't want you to think, oh, so this is us and this is them, because we have actually a bit from this and a bit from that, and you're gonna see how. So I just want you guys to say like adjectives. What would be a perfect child? Like just adjectives that come to mind with this angelic child. Yes.
Doesn't cry and is smart.
Okay, perfect. Nice start. What else?
obedient لما كانوا
Okay,
يسمع
yes.
كلام وهادي.
يسمع كلام polite, yes.
Is confident and speaks their truth.
Okay, that's actually very. Okay, so I need to
And
guys
also
remember.
culture.
I just want you guys to remember that Laura, from her perspective, this is the answer that she says. So she said expressing yourself in confidence. So I'm gonna come back to this. So I also want to talk to you about the self-determination theory that I'm gonna talk about later as we go. So it says here that all over the world, all ages and everything, we have 3 main needs that we need no matter where you are in life. So we have the tendency to feel autonomy, competence, and relatedness. So like quickly, autonomy is to feel like this is me, that's like my space and stuff. Competence is you're capable, and relatedness is to feel connected to others. So what happens is that in collectivistic cultures, competence and autonomy somehow fade or like fall a bit, and relatedness is heightened and is met. So what we do is that we really appreciate harmony, and it's even more important than self-expression. So this makes us like say I am because we are. So it's like you can see yourself you can see yourself in the role of you being with others, not only you as yourself. So this hits here, autonomy. And the praise behaviors are always to maintain social order. So for example, you don't question elders, you keep emotions in check, you help out. So it's always about helping others out. It's not really about what you do. And this also has like hits a bit for the competence is like, what am I if I don't do these things? And I'm gonna show you an example.
I didn't do anything wrong. I'm totally fine. Matt's fine, Reese's fine. I'm totally not nervous.
Guys, I'm a strong one. I'm not nervous.
Take care of the lyrics.
Cross your face. Okay. I'm in mountains, I'm in churches, and I blow because I know I'm worth it. Of course, I mean, I don't ask how hard the work is. Got a rough and destructive surface. Diamonds and platinum, my body's platinum. I take what I'm handed and I break what's demanded. But under the surface, do the circus, a tightrope walker in a three-ring circus. Under the surface, it's Hercules, I don't like y'all. I wanna ride circus. Under the surface, I'm pretty sure I'm worthless if I can be of service. Y'all wanna crack, the star in the stack. It breaks the camel's back, what breaks the camel's back is passion like the drip, drip, drip that'll never stop. Whoa. Passion that'll dip, dip, dip till you just don't pop. Whoa. Give it to your sister's older. Get all the heavy things we can shoulder. Who am I if I can't run with the ball? If I fall to passion like the drip, 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 then it won't let go.
So, like the lyrics says it all. For me, the song is like it's in a cartoon, and like yeah, she's strong, so it's very physical, but actually it means a lot deeper than this. It's like give it to your sister. She's older, she can handle it. It's not physical. It's also like emotional, and she's the big sister and stuff. And also she said, "Who am I if I can do this?" So like the whole Encanto, I really encourage you guys to watch Encanto again after this presentation, because it changed the perspective of like everyone has this gift, and the gift is to give other people, so their identity is so related to what we are praised in society. And then we tend to like oversee the other needs that are, that are not really linked about these things. So, of course, we cannot talk about attachment and culture without talking about the internal working models. So, for collectivistic cultures, they tend to think you're loved when you make others feel comfortable. And what does this do with attachment? So many of them develop anxious patterns. So they're striving to meet others' expectations and to preserve the status quo and the belonging feeling, while others actually learn to suppress their needs, leading to more avoidance strategies. So at the beginning, before like looking into the literature, I thought, so collectivistics, they're probably more anxious, and like the individualistics are the opposite, but actually they can either go this or they can go that too. And a part where also Laura talked about is family enmeshment, where whenever we're like together in this close relationships with the families, sometimes we misunderstand closeness with engulfing. So we want to be close, we want to feel this sense of belonging, but then you're so engulfed in this that you cannot see yourself as like a person, an individual anymore. So these individuals might adopt, and this is like what I personally think that there is a lot is like adopt avoidant attachment patterns, not out of coldness, but as a protective response to over-involvement. So like you're so involved, so you just decide to avoid it altogether. And this is what we say, like, you're anxious dealing with avoidance. It's like, I'm so anxious inside, but I'm just dealing with avoidance to avoid the engulfment of it. Yeah. So it's like just an attempt to preserve autonomy rather than like rejection the connection itself. What's wrong? Individualistic cultures, this one is amazing, competence, the autonomy, but then relatedness would fall out because, first of all, your self-worth is very, very highly related to performance. So what you do, not the other one is also what you do, but it's what you do to others. But here it's what you do, what you achieve in life, and like how can you present yourself in front of others. And here we mix love with competence. So it's I'm loved because I do this and I do that and I achieve this and that. And the other side here is I'm unique and I must stand out. That's like the first thought that comes to mind. And the praise behaviors are always speaking their minds. As Laura said, that's why I laughed, because it's always talking independently, speaking their mind, taking charge, and you're on your own. But also I want to remind you guys that I said we're starting also to be this too. So it's not that, we're collectivistic, so we don't have this. No, we actually start now, and you can see, of course, patterns of, yes, she's on her own, she's doing great, and also the feminist movements nowadays are like, yes, you can do it, you're on your own. The masculinity perspectives of, yes, I don't cry, I'm on my own. So all of these things we tend also to, hit about these things too.
Sorry.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
Next slide.
Yes. So here the internal working models is I'm valued when I don't need help. And you can see now a clear relation between I don't need help. So like I'm on my own when I ask for help, then okay, so now I'm not as good or as perfect as I should. So dependency threatens approval. It's like if I asked you about help, then okay, so you're not really my favorite child, or you're not really, this perfect child. And of course, it leads to avoidant behaviors like self-soothing, minimize distress, and avoid emotional reliance. Like I'm good. They also develop conditional self-acceptance. So it's not only with other people, but it's also me and like my image of like my self-image. That's why internal working models are very important here, because they love themselves through receiving, through success, and attachment figures become evaluators, not safe havens. So it's like if you go to your parent and if they approve, then I'm good. If they're not, then I need to work on myself to be better. And also here, I've never heard pseudo-secure before. It's like externally confident and self-reliant, but internally hyper-vigilant about rejection or failure. This is also the one I said before about like being internally anxious, but then in front of everyone, I'm good, I'm fine, because if you're not, then there's something about it. I love videos, so. But can you stop saying before I get another video.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So I just wanted to say before this video is that when we talk about culture, we have this sense of blame to the parents and to the culture, and it's very, very important to know that this has been going on for years and years. So it's never the parents' fault. It's been happening for years, and she's been suffering, and it's like it's an intergenerational transmission, kind of. So when I saw this video, I had this feeling of yes, everyone passes it on to the next one. So.
Mom, are you okay? We have to.
This is her mom's inner child.
Mom? I'm sorry. It's all my fault. What happened? I hurt her. Who? My mom. I got so angry and I lost control. I'm just so sick of being perfect. I'm never gonna be good enough for her. Or anyone. I know it feels that way, like all the time. But it isn't true. Come on.
So the thing here is very, very important. It's very important to have this hand-in-hand kind of thing. It's like you're going through a lot, and we have to put ourselves in the mothers and the grandmothers, because like I don't know if you saw Turning Red, she was also like her mother was always saying her, no, do this, don't do that. So she related to her mom's inner child, which I felt like, yes, this happens a lot. So if we started to be aware of these unmet needs and make sure that they don't define us and that they don't tell you like the other things that I'm saying. It's not you're not loved. It's just this is how your culture or your parents show love. So this video just says how she was always perfect. She was always doing those roses everywhere. But then when she realized, oh, this is actually restricting me from seeing a lot of other things that I cannot see because of this perfectionism, she like had this moment.
I just made something unexpected, something sharp, something new. This is the priority. It's not symmetrical or perfect, but it's beautiful and it's mine. What else can I do? Bring it in, bring it in. What else can I do? Grow rows of roses, through them I go, but my road, I made perfect practice poses, so much high behind my smile. What could I do if I just grew what I was feeling and all that? You know where you're going. What could I do if I just knew it didn't need to be perfect? It's needed to be.
So yeah, so this is like the moment where you realize, what can I do now? So like you're always restricted about those internal working models and what you've been listening to from your culture, and then this moment of, oh, I can actually do a lot more than what I've been told. So it's like, it's a moment that hopefully everyone reaches one day. So what I want to end with is to be very aware of what are we praising other people. So starting from children and colleagues and even like professor to student and everything, it's very important. Are we praising obedience or emotional regulation? Are we praising suppression or expression? Are we shutting down or do we just want co-regulation? So these things are very different, yet they are so like they're now considered as synonyms. Oh, okay, so you're obedient, oh yeah, you can just shut down your emotions, but actually you're not regulating them in the right way. So yeah, and there's also this model that says there is the autonomy relatedness model. So it is possible to be able to be independent and also have strong family ties. We tend to see it collectivistic versus individual so much that we tend to like don't see it as, you know, a spectrum of I can also love my family and I have very strong ties with them, but I'm also independent. I have my own, you know, life outside of this circle. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahi, for simplifying such a complicated idea and for bringing in the nuances of culture and how things can happen from different perspectives and how sometimes you're doing something because it's like a boundary. I heard you, and if I understood that correctly, like it's some kind of boundary you're putting for outside influences, but it's a very nuanced kind of perspective that I like. You brought in different perspectives and the videos are great. And Kanto Amatan is such a good example for that kind of topic. I love it. Thank you. Any questions? Any comments? Yeah?
I was just going to say, like, I think overarching theme in your presentation and in psychology in general, there's something so important in research that is very big and I think it needs to be operationalized very well. I think, like, in order to prevent, like, for example, whether it's cognitive distortions, whether it's distorted body image, whether it's like psychological symptoms, it's so important preventatively to understand the emphasis. If the child or if the human being has like unconditional acceptance and love and positive attachment, you're able to prevent so many like psychological disorders or a distorted self-image or self-worth. So I think in research in general there needs to be more operationalization. How do we measure this and to see to what extent this child was feeling a sense of positive like belonging and intimacy and attention as a child? So they develop in a positive way. I don't know, it's very vague, but I feel like it's such a strong like preventative thing that really needs to be measured more.
I actually say that like being secure in this relationship would be like a protective factor. So culture is there. You're gonna hear these things no matter what happens. You're gonna be told this thing one way or another. But if you have the secure base at home, So you'd be able to know that, okay, this is only the culture, but I know my worth. So it actually helps protecting yourself from whatever you hear, either this or that.
Yeah, the two talks today also made me think of something I think we don't talk about enough in psychology, especially in counseling and clinical work, is the role of money. And that's very important, especially in the capitalistic world that we have today. Because a lot of pressures of perfectionism, pressures of the pressures of the individual to do something come from, a lot of them at the times come from the need to make enough money. Because the pressure is on you, the individual, to make money. Even in more collectivistic settings, you're still taking on pressure for the family, for example, or pressure. So a lot of these come sometimes from that, and I think that also plays a big role in all of these. Even in Turning Red, there's a lot of talk about the child wanting to make enough money to go to a concert, or the parent putting pressure on the child to make it to get a financially successful job. So I think this is something I've seen it in clients with eating disorders, of parents putting that kind of pressure on them to be perfect, and to get the perfect job, and to be perfect at the thing that you do. And both of those talks made me wonder about that. The other part I'm just always cautious of. The one reason I asked about what's it like, how the parent treats the child, because that's the tricky part in that this changes depending on the context. You're working in a clinical setting, so I was curious to see from that, when you're working with both of them, what it looks like. From the individual and the therapist, you're building strong bonds, so it's important to understand how does this person experience life, and so how does their parent treat them. And I think, yes, blame, when you're talking to the parent, it's important to understand that you externally, but the child, because we're talking about individual collective cultures, we're all, regardless of which culture we're in, we have to balance the pressure of my existence as an individual and my existence as part of a whole thing. Regardless of what kind of culture I'm in, I'm still part of a whole thing. And so how do I formulate, even if I fall into an individual culture in a relationship, I'm part of a whole thing. So how do I balance these two? That's where I think it comes into play, where you said about it's not just one or the other. We're always some kind of mixture. We're trying to understand where are we in this, and how do I balance this out between you and person and everything. I think that's also then brings in that sense of responsibility. Yes, it's important not to just say, oh, it's just one person's fault. It's also important at times to acknowledge it is also one person's fault in a sense. Even if they got affected by their parents, they're still making a choice. And me as an individual being subject to that choice, it's important that I understand that they made a choice.
But I think
and that balance is tricky.
I think the choice part comes after awareness, and I don't know if everyone's aware.
Yes, but I'm saying for the individual, because a lot of what we talk about in all of these is shame, right? It's the shame of the person who's experiencing eating disorder, the shame of the child, the collectivistic culture. And one way to take pressure off that shame is recognizing, even if someone made this choice out of without full awareness, no one ever has full awareness. No one ever has, to have full awareness means full access to information and everything that's happening outside, which is impossible. And so no one ever has full awareness of things. And so it's important to then, when we say make a choice, the choice is being made even without full awareness. So I think that is also important in the balance of things when we're thinking, because what you said is very important, what both of you said is very important, but it's also equally important to say, just to me as a child, for example, yes, they made a mistake, and it's important to then keep that in mind too. In addition to the fact that they were also victims of their own.
Yeah, to validate what they're going through.
Of course, but I think from a clinical perspective, from a psychotherapist perspective, this should always come from the patient.
Yes,
you know?
yes, definitely.
And this can only be the case when you have what we call in French neutralité bienveillante, benevolent neutrality. This is a wrong concept of psychodynamic therapy, which means if you are not a white screen so that the patient can project on you, you will come up with the problems and not the patient. And this is, I think, more than awareness, it's even an attitude, you know, it's an attitude. If you see patients, especially with severe disorders, you have to be even more blank space, because they will project a lot on you. And you have to pay attention to get to know them enough to even propose something to them.
To even ask the question,
Otherwise,
still
it's
need
you,
an
not
understanding the
And this
people.
is also where this for me was so beautiful that this presentation came after the one about eating disorder, because I hear these things about collective societies and I'm like, oh wow, right. This is not where I come from when I present. Even my presentation has biases of my culture. So this is, I think this neutrality is key.
I think like one last thing that also, when you're asking like what's a perfect child, my answer was just one that exists.
Exactly.
It's
No one
not
said it.
one,
Yeah.
it's the Jenna left it's not one that has to kind of perform to a specific
Exactly.
standard, it's just one that exists.
But how many parents, how many
Yeah.
people in society
Yeah.
do think?
Leave that. This didn't come up in the discussion at all. So yeah, I agree that it has to. It's a tricky thing because you're never fully neutral, but you try to be, and it's balancing that out so that you're actually listening to the person instead of colluding with them on a narrative that's not really true.
Yeah. And I want to follow up on that, Ifadla, and it's a very important point, and I think in therapy it is such a tricky balance to be able to help the client identify how their parents might have made some mistakes and how they can be blamed for some things without turning them into a victim. Because it's also a trap to get into this victimization hole and to just believe, and they were wrong, they did that to me, and I have no responsibility. It takes away from your agency, it takes away from your narrative, and it's such a tricky balance. So you don't want to go to one extreme, I guess, and not the other. And one more thing that I was also thinking about, especially in Mahi's presentation, it's something I talk a lot very often in my classes. I think many students here would relate to that. This idea of authenticity of the child versus attachment. And Gabor Mate talks about this a lot, actually. I would say not only children, but as adults as well, we all want to be seen and we all want to be accepted at the end of the day. And if what is being praised and what I'm receiving from my community is you have to be this, this, and that, as a child and as an adult also, I will probably turn into these things eventually. If you tell me I need to be a good girl to be loved, I will turn into the good girl, whatever that means. If you tell me if I ask for help that I'm weak, I will eventually pretend that I don't need help, even though on the inside I might be scared and shaken, but you're praising something and I will become that. Because eventually we want to be accepted and we want to be loved and seen more than our need to be authentic. It's a higher need. I will need you to see me more than I need to be seen as I am. So eventually we give up parts of ourselves as children and as adults because society or whatever, fill in the blank here, whatever that is, praised something and it took away parts of who I am. So I guess an interesting question to leave with today is also this reflection, like what did we give up on? Did we give up on parts of ourselves? If they weren't very praised, maybe I would have acted differently. Yes, that would be an interesting reflection, but to think about. Yeah. Thank you so much for the presentation.